Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I thought I would do another book review. This time it's going to be the Dorothy L. Sayers book Whose Body, which is part of the Lord Peter Wimsey series. I've kind of got into crime fiction, murder mysteries a little bit recently, as well as sci-fi. It's an interesting combination. But this is one that I've read recently and I liked that it was quite short. I'd heard of the series actually from an episode of Frasier. I don't know if anyone remembers the fancy dress party, but so when I saw this in a shop for about £2, I thought I would pick it up and give it a go. And I do like the kind of Art Deco styly on the cover, and so covers also are what sell books to me. Whatever people say about not judging a book by a cover, that's how I choose my books. Anyway, so the plot of the book is that a local architect slash builder gets up one morning and finds a naked dead body, a naked man, in his bathtub who is not wearing anything apart from a pair of pince-nez. My pronunciation, I'm afraid, is not fantastic, but pince-nez are the little teeny tiny glasses that old-fashioned posh people would wear at the end of their noses, and it literally translates to nose pliers, which is quite amusing. Pince-nez might seem a little bit of an old-fashioned thing to include in a book, but this book was published in 1923, and Dorothy L. Sayers was actually born in 1893 and was one of the first women to be awarded a degree from Oxford University. Whose Body is actually her first novel and the first in the Lord Peter Wimsey series. So Lord Peter Wimsey is an aristocrat who doesn't need to work but does amateur sleuthing in his spare time, and he has a faithful manservant called Bunter who, as well as being up all hours doing the things that manservants do, like getting your shoes polished, is also a dab hand at photography and developing plates with fingerprints on, etc. So that kind of relationship might remind you of Jeeves and Wooster, if you've ever read those books, and the fact that he is a sleuth, and his attention to detail and his deductive reasoning and those kind of skills that he has may remind you of Sherlock Holmes. So it's kind of a combination of the two. Interestingly, she's obviously been inspired by those works. Wimsey is almost a caricature of the aristocratic amateur sleuth. He's quite flippant to begin with, he's very jovial, he's definitely without care, or he seems to be without care. He doesn't have to work, he's independently reasonably wealthy and has a manservant, etc. And he just does this as kind of a hobby in his spare time for fun. And that could get quite irritating, but actually later on you kind of see that there is more of a depth, that he is more sensitive. He is actually still suffering from shell shock, or what we would call now PTSD, from World War I, and at one point he has hallucinations and nightmares about German guns, and thinking that he's still in the trenches fighting in World War I, brought on by the overwork of investigating the case of the dead man in the bath. So that gives him more depth, and obviously it gives a certain relevance and resonance for an audience in 1923, where a lot of people would still have been suffering from some kind of after effects of World War I. But certainly when you're reading the book, it makes his character a little bit more interesting. So like I said, the book was written in the 1920s, and so some of the references are a bit dated. One of the characters in the book is Jewish, and there are a lot of references to his being Jewish and to Jews, which at best, like I said, seem quite dated, and at worst could be read as being anti-Semitic. It just honestly seems quite odd to a modern audience when you're reading it, as to why there needs to be so many references to his being Jewish, and a lot of people seem to have an opinion on Jews in the book. I didn't read it and be horrified and outraged by overt racism, as I have been with perhaps some other books in the past. But like I said, it just seems really odd. You obviously can have characters within a book who are themselves anti-Semitic, and that doesn't make the book racist. And I kind of felt like that is more the way this book was going. but not knowing Dorothy L. Sayers, I couldn't say for certain what her position was in regards to this issue. So like I said, I didn't find it overly offensive. I just felt like it just seems a bit odd when you're reading it, and it is quite dated. And in the end, I was expecting it to be more relevant to the plot, but it didn't actually really seem to be that relevant. So it just seemed a bit unnecessary. I did enjoy this book, mainly because of the character of Lord Peter Wimsey. He is like a jolly Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes is quite an interesting character, but he is pretty bloody miserable most of the time, and kind of a dick. And this guy is a lot more chirpy and friendly. In terms of the actual plot of this specific book, I found that it was just incredibly convoluted way of actually committing a murder, or perhaps not the murder itself, but the disposing of the body. And when we get the big reveal at the end, it just seemed a bit ridiculous. I mean, it did involve someone carrying a dead body over the roofs of nearby houses, which just seems a bit unrealistic in terms of the physical strength it would require, and the fact that no one saw him or heard him. You know, it was a bit hard to suspend my disbelief to that extent. Which is kind of a shame, because I was liking the book up to that point. As I said, it was her first novel, and it's the first in the series, so I may try some more of the other books and see if I enjoy those as well. I would recommend the book, especially if you just want a short read and you enjoy murder mysteries. So that's it really, just a little book review. Please like if you have enjoyed the video. Please leave comments or suggestions of other books that I might like to read, because I am trying to get on with my reading this year. And please subscribe if you would like to see more videos about book reviews and crafts and planning and other stuff that I post videos about.